Hello, everyone. So, I wanted to connect with you today because I was getting a lot of visions as it relates to what can be expected if you're able to conform with your guides, with your universe, with your higher self in the coming months. So, I kept getting the words vibrational UFOs. So, vibrational light ships, vibrational UFOs. Because what I was seeing is that the last few years, and I'm referring to all the ones who are the map makers and the way showers and the star seeds and the path charters and the light raisers and the grid workers and the gatekeepers and the galactic shamans. So I'm referring to all of you who have been very proficient or adept at your ability to commune with the spirit world the last few years, the ones who have really done the work to deposit those different light codes or to integrate the light codes to help humanity ascend itself into those higher dimensional planes of existence. And so, if you're watching this right now, I want you to know that the last few years, you have been responsible for clearing a big chunk of dense energies that were still dwelling in the planetary body of Gaia, in her arteries, in her muscular structure, in her ley lines, in the grid lines, in all of these different things. You were the ones who were responsible for clearing that out from within yourself. Now, if you're new to this channel, this is something you need to understand. When you have a lot of dense material in your body, in this human instrument, think of dense energy as a heavy material that's in your body. Or think of it as yeast or gluten in your vibrational field. When you have a lot of that in your body, it is typically rooted in a conditioning, in programming, in the quote-unquote matrix, the third dimensional matrix of control and dominion and having power over others. It's all rooted in this hierarchical structure of reality where we were upstaging each other or overpowering each other or trying to outdo one another. It was rooted in competition. It was rooted in shame, in envy, in greed. The third dimension was a reality that was built upon ego. And so there was a lot of divisiveness in the third dimension. Now, the third dimension is carbon-based. So that carbon in your body sets in as like this density. It's like this heavy material. Think of it as gluten or something. And so you can only have that within your body if you're still being sustained or kept afloat by external programs, because the whole third dimensional plane of existence was all premised on codependence, right? You don't need to be competitive when you're secure within yourself. You don't need to try to dominate another person when you don't need something from them. So it was a very externally oriented reality or a physically focused reality. So if you have a lot of fear in your body, if you have a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, the reason why you have that accumulated gluten or that accumulated dense energy or that thick material in your physicality, the reason why you have that is because you're still relying upon external systems. You're still relying upon external systems to sustain you. Now, if you're on a spiritual path, then you've done a lot of work with yourself and with your guides and with your angels and with your higher self to clear that heavy energy by way of being more self-sustaining, self-sufficient, by coming into your sovereignty as a being, by taking the funding away from what the 3D matrix was providing you with or supplying you with. And you started to invert your gaze and point your focus inwardly to come into a greater measure of your divinity. meaning you started to learn how to work in concert with your higher self, or with God, or with Source, or with the Creator. I've been calling it the Creator lately just because I feel like that can apply to everything. Meaning your higher self, your true original self, is a creator. So you are the creator. From another perspective, you could see it as the prime creator that created all the creators. But I've been calling it the Creator lately just because I feel like it's the thing that's most proportional with what this intelligence is. Because then it's a matter of perception. Are you the creator? Is it the creator? And I feel like it doesn't rule out anyone. It doesn't exclude anyone, whether it be people who believe in God or don't like the word God, which I completely understand as well, because there's a lot of indoctrination involved, or there's a lot of different dogmatic beliefs involved and all of this. So I get that too. But so let's just call it the Creator. I'm going to start calling it the Creator a lot more. You started to learn how to work with your inner creator, which is your higher self, which is also God's source. If you don't want to see yourself as God or source. It could be the creators, meaning the original founders of this reality. It could be guides. It can be all of these different associates that you have working with you together in an effort to help you become a greater manifester and a more seasoned creator. So you no longer needed or depended on others or on external situations to recharge your batteries. You found a way to connect with your breath, and through doing that internal shadow work, you were able to crop out a lot of that heaviness within your system. And for a lot of you, this needed to happen because you were being prepped for this great awakening that is happening now, that is upon us now. And I'm telling you, we have quantum grasshopped ourselves into a whole new existence, you guys. This has happened since quarantine. There's a very evident, very noticeable shift that is occurred in the collective, and you'll start to witness it. I'm not going to get into details as it pertains to your personal life right now because I want to stay on topic, okay? All right. So for a lot of you, you've done your due diligence, you've done that shadow work, which isn't always very pleasant, but we do it anyways. You've done that in an effort to uproot some of these energies, some of that density, and start to depend on dimensions that are accessible from within. That's when you go into the upper dimensions. That's when you start to connect with higher dimensional beings. That's when you connect to higher frequency domains, and they teach you the ins and outs of this reality, or they show you the ropes so that you can really apply your energy in a way that brings back a match from the outer world. So you still source from the outer world. The difference is it carries a completely different quality of energy as it used to. Because if you think about it, if you're working at a job that you really despise, and you're not happy there, then the boss probably wouldn't want you to set foot on that job if you were going to bring that negative, toxic energy anyway. So 3D was always based on manipulation. I hate my job and I'll complain about it, but I still want the paycheck. You see how there's almost like a conflicting energy there, or contradictory energy. 3D was always like, I want to leave my husband, but he's providing for me financially, but I don't like him. So it was always this stark contrast of like, I want to leave, or I want to go do this, but I'm afraid. So people who house a lot of fear in their body, they will generally remain in situations because they're afraid of the consequences if they leave. So they might be afraid to become homeless. They might be afraid that they'll never amount to being this independent sovereign being. And in 3D, there are a lot of demons. And what that means to me are sinister thoughts, intrusive thoughts, almost like these demonic thoughts that want to keep you in 3D because it's feeding off of you. So the way that they keep you in 3D is they start to whisper in your ear these very fearful things, such as if you leave your husband, the outcome will be that you will have no money. ever. So these thoughts that you then believe, because remember, if you're operating third dimensionally, you're more susceptible and more influential. So these thoughts can really, really gain influence over you and your reality. And you almost become this host, or you almost become this empty seater, and then they're able to drive your bus for you. So in 3D, I always liken 3D to hell, because hell is a place where we want to hurt each other. Hell is a place where we want to outsmart each other. Hell is a place where we're still playing competition games, and we still have envy and jealousy, and we still shame each other, and we guilt trip each other. Hell is a place where people gossip because they think that they're getting energy or they're getting excitement from those conversations that they have with their friends when they badmouth someone else, when really it's the bottom of the barrel. That's like a cockroach feeding off garbage and all of this crummy energy. So hell is a dimension where people are feeding off of drama and trauma. All right? So you always know you're in 3D when you're bored. And because you're bored and you're needing some excitement, then you're going to reach out to people who are completely insignificant to you. And you'll convince yourself in that moment that they are significant to you. These are all third dimensionally oriented thought forms. And also thought forms, speaking on thought forms are like energies with consciousness that float about the universal mind. And so if you're linked to 3D, you're then going to have these thought forms that are also operating within 3D. So they're still in that tit for tat game, or they're still in that rat race. They're going to whisper in your ear because everyone's looking out for themselves. It's a very selfish reality. It's a very selfish reality. It's service to self. And service to self, not in a positively polarized way, because I'm of the belief that if you serve yourself because you know you can't pour from an empty cup, so that you can then regenerate yourself, you can then recharge your batteries and then be of service to others, to me that's service to higher self. So it's positively polarized. But selfish is like, I'm going to do what I need to do, even if it means ratting you out, even if it means manipulating you, because I got to get what I got to get. And usually people act like that, even though that's not their true self. They act like that because they're in survival mode. Okay? And they're also so under the influence of the 3D matrix that they're cloaked or they're veiled, and they're not able to see the chain reaction of that manipulation. They're all about instant gratification. If I manipulate you and get what I want, then I'm good. I used to be that guy, by the way, before my awakening in 2011, and I had a spontaneous walk-in experience. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's precisely what happened to me in 2011. Within minutes, I had a Kundalini awakening. I felt another intelligence walk into my body, and from that day on, I cleaned up my act. I started being very nice to people. I started unmuddying my waters and just doing everything I could to undo and reverse the damage that I had caused in the years prior. But I didn't judge myself for that. That's the thing. When this new consciousness entered my body, there was zero judgment. It was like, okay, but we still need to repair the damage that was done to the DNA. We still need to repair the damage that was done to others as well. So I had to call a lot of people and make amends and, clean up my act and forgive myself and forgive others and so forth and so forth. Anyways, going off topic. But, all right. The message I was getting for all of you today was that you've cleared a large chunk of this dense energy, which means that you're no longer a match to the 3D or 4D. Okay? So, the thing is, though, this is the caveat. As you levitate into these higher planes, into these upper dimensions, you may find that there are tiny little traces of that older model of reality, of the 3D reality or the 4D reality, tiny little, the guides call it the leftovers energetic leftovers are going to start to crowd in to your awareness. So let me give you a very simple example. You're feeling lighter now. You can feel that there's been this apparent shift in your consciousness. And then someone pops up in your mind who's reminiscent of your past. And you start thinking about what you could have done differently. Maybe you think to yourself, I stole their innocence when I exploded or imploded and I lashed out at them. Maybe I could have done things better, right? And you have all these different iterations in your mind as to what you could have done to prevent that from happening. And so these different thought forms are going to try to seduce you. They're going to try to steamroll you into thinking that you could have done things differently. But what I'm here to tell you right now is that whatever happened needed to happen. We're not always able to wrap our minds around why something happens the way it does, but you have to believe me when I tell you that there's typically a dominant frequency that you may be unknowing of, right? You have no clue as to why this is happening. There might be a dominant frequency that is serving every party involved. And it may not serve them in that instance, but further down the road, it will lead to some sort of an awakening or an epiphany or some sort of an aha moment. So even when you mess up, just know that it cuts both ways, right? There's a saying that goes, it takes two to tango. So there was probably a build-up and then you lashed out. And I'm not saying that it's ever justifiable to lash out. What I'm saying is you cannot go in linear terms, right? In this linear progression of time, you cannot backpedal and change the past. You cannot. You can only do that through your consciousness. Now, for those of you who have already made it over the hump and you've already quantum jumped yourself into this other plane, you can call it New Earth, you can call it the fifth dimension, you can call it whatever you like, this vibrational existence that is pure, meaning that you're not really magnetizing a lot of external drama anymore. Whenever you magnetize a lot of drama and problems with people or fights, it means that you still have a lot of that programming, okay? Without exception. 99.9% of the time, if there's a lot of activity in your solid reality, right, and it's out of your grasp, meaning you can't control it, and things get a little out of control sometimes, that means, or it points to, a lot of the 3D programs that you have in your body. And as long as you have those programs installed in your body, you will continue to attract a match to them so that you can eventually pull those roots out, or so that you can eventually deprogram yourself and decide that through your choice, okay, you're ready to turn a new leaf, you're ready to disengage from drama, and you're also ready to take full responsibility for whatever transpired or for whatever it is that you're attracting. Because you cannot become a true creator. You cannot become a true creator unless and until you're ready to assume responsibility for everything that's in your field of resonance. Meaning everything that pops up in your hologram, everything that pops up in your life, until you take full accountability, you cannot truly become a creator of your life. You can't. Okay? Because someone else will always pick up the slack for you. So if you have some unconscious patterning going on, meaning that, okay, let me think of an example. If you are unable to provide for yourself financially, and you're, 35 years old and you've never made money, there's some sort of an unconscious program. So someone's going to swoop in as a match to pick up your slack. It might be that your mom still puts money in your account. There's no judgment, okay? So you're never condemned. Just know that. I'm just sharing how this works, the mechanics of the whole thing. If there's an area of your mind that you're not occupying, think of it as a vacancy in your hotel, and this is a hotel, and this is a vacant room. There will always be someone who sweeps in and picks up your slack. All right, that was 3D though. That was the I can't do for me, so I need you to do for me. And then when that person doesn't do for you, then all hell breaks loose. That was 3D. 3D was a big game of separation, of pointing the finger, of delegating blame games, and we're no longer in that anymore. That reality's been closed. Some people will still play that out, okay? But increasingly so, you will find that people in 3D are squeezed out of there, or they're ejected out of there because planet Earth isn't having it anymore. She said, enough is enough. I'm going to shake off these fleas. Enough is enough is enough is enough. So I always equate 3D to musical chairs. It's a vision I got a couple of years ago. And you pull out the chairs and there's not much room in 3D anymore. But there will be a number of people who still play out that reality. And a lot of them are really just doing it because they're supposed to balance this universe in some capacity, or they're supposed to slow down the ascension a little bit so that other people who are in 4D can catch up. All right. So the majority of you watching this have already graduated yourself into 5D. You already have. However, you will notice that there are these traces that float up to the surface, and they're going to wear a disguise to make you think that you need to go back, text people from your past, and so forth and so forth. And as soon as you do that, you've fallen into the booby trap. All right? So the reason I titled this video, Levitating into New Realities, is because more than ever, we really need to relinquish all control. All right? So I can be very honest with you guys and very frank here. You're being asked more than ever to let go of everything. Everything. Meaning, if you have the urge to pick up your phone and text someone from your past because you feel bad, that's still you trying to control the narrative. Okay? The message I'm getting right now is you need to receive what it is that the universe has up its sleeve. I love that. You need to receive what it is that the universe has up its sleeve. So the universe has all these magical surprises for you, and it wants to bear those gifts upon you. But the thing is, before it can do that, it needs you to fully relinquish your control as to what you want things to look like or what you wish you could have done differently, so that it can then present something that will change your life. I want you to tune in for a moment into the feeling that you have when you think to yourself, I'm letting go of all of it. It can somewhat feel painful, right? Because you can feel the shedding or the purging taking place. But I want you to feel it in a different capacity. Do it again. When you're no longer taking the bait with any of these threads or any of these traces or any of these leftovers. Doesn't it feel like you're levitating? Doesn't it feel like you've just opened up a doorway into wonder and who knows what's going to happen next? Doesn't it feel right? To me, it feels right. It feels right. I'm going to do another video at some point about the throat chakra and an immense download I got around that as it relates to the Pleiadians and to the fifth dimension. But right now, I want you to really be vigilant with the knowingness that you've done the work and that you can't keep doing the work for others. All right? If there are people in your life right now who refuse to communicate transparently, if there are people in your life who refuse to be able to come face to face and hash something out or mend an issue, then that lets you know that they're not where you are. Because you may have zero qualms about wanting to discuss something. I'm someone who loves to pick a bone when necessary, or I love when people pick a bone with me when necessary, because it means that we're on the cusp of a major upgrade together. And it's a huge service to humanity. But other people have to be willing to board that train. If they're not willing to board that train with you and accompany you on this path, or vice versa, then there's nothing left to discuss. And I feel that I'm addressing right now a lot of the people who feel pure, who have done that work. I always say purification works in tandem with unification. Well, I just came up with that sentence, but I always think purification equals unification, and unification equals purification. And we've all undergone this massive overhaul of this purification process. All right, and it's time for you to give yourself a pat on the back and to know that you're now occupying a different frequency domain than you used to. And that's one of the biggest visions I got this week, is that this planet is officially multidimensional in nature. Meaning you might feel like you're from the 2060s and you've come back in time to the 2020s to assist with the shift. Other people might feel like they're very stuck in their ways and they're very stubborn and they refuse to put in the work. And although you can be standing in line in a grocery store right next to someone, you guys are probably occupying completely different versions of Earth. But as we know, Mama Gaia is very patient with people. So she's giving people a teeny weeny bit of wiggle room to catch up to where she already is. So our job is not to keep picking up the pieces for people. Our job is to accept that we're pure, that there's nothing left. Drop into your heart and drop all the stories. And I feel like for you, it's the opposite. It's almost like you've already dropped all the stories and now you're fully dropped into your heart. But if you haven't dropped your stories, drop into your heart and drop all the stories, because the heart is pure. And when you're in your heart, okay, and you don't swing like a pendulum and you don't try to come up with another excuse or another reason or another explanation or another justification or another argument, when you truly drop everything, that's when you know you're in your heart. Because there's nothing left. There's just you and you alone. And everything else is just some sort of noise or some static that's trying to throw you off course, that's trying to derail you. Don't let it happen. Let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And remember that these third dimensional entities are fighting tooth and nail right now to recruit anyone, because they're ruthless, to recruit anyone that will remain in 3D, okay, as a means to keep supplying others who are in that victimhood, who are in those lower energies, to keep everyone afloat. You see, because 3D is thinning out right now, okay, as the veils thin out, 3D is thinning out and there's not much room there anymore, there will be other entities that try to accost you or try to coerce you into coming back to 3D so that they can get one more meal out of you. So don't let them get that meal. And I'm not sharing this from a dualistic place. I'm sharing this because there's been a bifurcation. All right? And this is a demarcation point. This is when you choose, where do I really belong? And if I sincerely feel like I've graduated and I now belong to 5D, I refuse to waver. I refuse to give my power away again. I refuse to accept these thoughts that are obviously trying to weigh me down and bog me down. I refuse to partake in that. Because I'm a divine being, and any thought that is less than divine is easily detected by me. And I refuse to accept anything that's less than divine anymore. I refuse. So, my friends, Whether you're new to my channel or whether you feel like you've already done a lot of the work, know that this is a time where traces of your old life may show up for you in an effort to derail you. And you need to be steadfast in who you know yourself to be. And if you are steadfast in that, right away you will feel like you are levitating into higher dimensions. And we have no clue what awaits us there. But isn't that exciting? Isn't it awesome to know that there might be some wonder and some amazement and new opportunities and new people and new places? Stick with that. All right, I love you guys. If you'd like to support my mission, if you'd like to support my messages, my link is feelgoodlife.com/donate. I appreciate every single donation. I love you. Thank you for your support. feelgoodlife.com/donate. And I will see you in another version of the Now.